What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations. 2018 Innovation Award winner, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads, fathers, and male caregivers that is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And being part of that movement, that our group has reached out directly and indirectly to over 400,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. And as always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. We're broadcasting live on Saturday, August 30th, the last Saturday in August of 2025. And it has gotten noticeably cooler here in the Toronto area. Like a few weeks ago, I was saying it's way too hot to go outside. Well, this week I heard some people saying I had to turn on my furnace. Like we got down to like 50 degrees Fahrenheit last night. And I spoke to some people who say, yeah, I had to turn on my furnace. It's not even September yet, not even like the end officially of summer yet. And people are already turning on their furnace. But you know what? No worries about that. It is Primetime Saturday time with Aisha and LaLa. And it's Primetime Saturday with Aisha and Dr. Tachi, because LaLa is not with us this week, but as always, Dr. Tachi makes herself available to add wonderment to Primetime Saturday. Greetings, ladies. How we doing?
Great.
Fantastic. How are you? Happy Saturday.
I am really good. It's been a relaxing Saturday. Friend came by and visited and shared some of the, I don't know, what isn't a family without challenges, but the challenges in her family are just next level. Her and her sister she like spent an hour and a half just sharing with me. I went, okay. But then she bought me an ice cream cone, a dipped ice cream cone, my first ice cream of the season. And it's funny because my dietary habits has changed. This isn't agreeing with my stomach. So I guess ice cream is off my list.
Oh, and off mine.
You could do a non-dairy type of thing.
Yeah, so it just went, it's not happening. That's happening. But what's going on in both of your ladies' lives? What's been up? What's been going on?
Go first, Aisha.
Well, two things. My first piece of good luck is that I got a free textbook. I needed a textbook. Oh. I got a free textbook. One of my classmates downloaded a PDF and said, hey, I'll share it with you. I offered to give her something. She's like, no, I just want here. That was the first thing. But the big thing is someone I got in contact with because I wanted to do some little ancestry information, and she gave me a news article and it linked up with everything because we've been doing this on my family for years. Since I learned that one of my ancestors on my mother's side, her mother's ancestor, was one of the first state legislators in South Carolina in 1870.
Wow.
Yes, one of the first black legislators. And he was run out by the Klan, of course, but yeah. Which I wish I had known that when I lived in South Carolina, because, it's very cliquey down there with like black political figures and stuff. Yeah. But yeah, that was something worth finding out. His name was Sam Knuckles.
So Aisha, thank you for sharing that. And you were sharing before we went live. How was the world of school treating you?
I love it. I'm so happy.
Wow.
But yeah, I got that 3 days ago.
Nice. And what are you taking again in school?
Master's into PhD in communications.
Whoa. Oh, wow. So between Dr. Tachi and Aisha, PhD is going to be in communications? Whoa.
But you know what else I did, too, in the last 3 weeks? I also just finished a certificate in human resources management.
Wow.
Yeah, it was 7 courses.
Whoa.
I did it in 2 weeks. Yeah.
Huh?
Well, I wanted to expand my employment opportunities, and so employment.
Courses in 2 weeks.
Well, yeah, because in communications, a lot of times people do take high-paying jobs in
Mhm.
organizational communications and management, and internal communications within companies through HR. And I'm excited because I have an organizational consulting class that I'm taking, and we're doing pro bono consulting as part of the course.
Wow.
I'm really excited about it.
Okay. And where are you coming in from today? Where are you located today? Because that's not usual home base.
Nope, I am at the what is it? The College of Engineering and Technology and Architecture building at University of Harvard.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's more than enough. Dr. Tachi, what's a win you've had lately?
Oh, well, today, first of all, Aisha, I think you already know it goes without saying, whatever you need, let me know, because of course, all my degrees are in communication. So let me know what you need. I've
Mm-hmm.
got you. Second of all, today was really great. Today was a brunch day. And it was a brunch day. There's a place called, I don't know if you've ever eaten at American Social. Um, yeah, so I think they're just here in Florida, in South
Okay.
Florida. So it's like, brunch food. They have American fare, I would say. So that was my first time eating at American Social. We were up in Boca Raton, and I went with a group of ladies that I met online on Threads. So if you remember at the time when the election happened and everybody was jumping ship from Twitter, and then everybody was just trying to figure out how to talk about what was happening, Threads became that place for many people. So there were all these 92% women that were there. So we're all a group of 92% women in South Florida that we've all met up. And since then, we've been meeting once a month for brunch. And that's a place where we could kind of talk and that type of thing. Because left to my own devices, listen, I'll be here. Okay, I'm fine being incognito. But, it's good to have those connections. So that was a nice thing that I got to meet with the 92% ladies. Hey, Jen, how are you?
Yes. Well, might as well. I was going to wait till after, but of course, Jen says hello, everyone. And also says she's doing great, Dr. Vibe. Hope you're well as you are well. So, Aisha, how fabulous, Jen says. And also says hello, Dr. Tachi. That is
Yay.
fantastic. Both you, oh, you guys are just making things happen. And of
Mm,
course, Dr. Tachi couture with the hat. You gotta love the
Mm-hmm.
hat. If you're watching this live on replay, the hat is on fire. So she inspired me to,
thank you.
yeah, I got inspired me to maybe get one of those hats. I've been thinking
Yeah.
about it, but now I'm saying, yeah, okay. Yeah,
Let's
Basically,
talk. Let's
let's
talk. I'll
well,
talk.
send you the website and you can see what you like.
Well,
basically, we're
with
doing
what,
our 92% business over here.
well,
Yes.
probably though the amount of money would cost me these days, what's going on with packages and all that sort of stuff. It's probably not worth my while ordering it from down there, plus difference in the dollar,
That's true. That's true.
yada yada yada. It was a nice idea, but I'm sure there's stores up here that have
Oh,
the
for sure.
availability. Yeah, I'm
Well,
sure they.
in another 3 months, though, the tariffs might not be
Oh,
tariffing.
no, no, I don't think. I think the Supreme Court will vote with him. Come on now.
Well, the law is the law. It says that only Congress can set the tariffs.
Hold on a second. You're talking law and 47. That's an
I
oxymoron.
mean, Congress probably will fold, but Supreme Court, they will have to say, well, Congress has to do this, and then Congress will, you know, literally shrink away from doing it, and it'll be what it is.
I don't get involved too much. I don't think you're going to see a change on the tariffs thing. I just think that 47 will get his way in the end.
Well,
That's
Republicans are
fine.
dropping out left and right.
True.
My thing is this. Fine, charge your tariffs. but I want everyone around the world to charge right back and more. It's
Mm-hmm.
about time. You have to put people in their place.
Yeah.
They've long since left knowing what their place is, and they've exceeded. They've always exceeded it, but now they've gone beyond. Put them back in their place. Charge tariffs, and I especially want African countries to do this,
Yeah.
because honestly, the things that matter that come into this country don't come from any place else but Africa. Okay,
Yeah.
you could say electronics, etc., but what makes them run? The minerals and things that you would get from the continent. So I hope they're taxed and tariffed to hell.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of disappointed in Canada, to be honest.
Yes, Mr. Carney,
Yes.
back down.
Sir, Mr. Carney, if I can appeal to you as someone who lives in this country,
Hold out.
you cannot, yes, you cannot fold, you cannot stand down, you cannot. What did once upon a time George Bush say? We don't negotiate with terrorists. That's what you need to do.
Yeah.
That's what you need to do.
Yeah. Because that's literally what he is. I mean, hold out as long as you can. Because you know who else I can promise you is going to hold out? Mexico.
Yeah,
And
you notice in all of
and you
this,
know how we
you're
know?
hearing nothing from Mexico.
You know how we know they're going to hold out? They made a joke. They painted their side of the fence all pretty bright colors. They're like, you big dummies, you painted black so the fence would be hot on the wrong side.
All right, well, we'll see what happens. But what we're going to do is we're going to go for a break, come back, we'll do some house stuff, and then we'll get back to some more. So we'll be right back. Black Canada Talking, where Black Canadians give their takes, POVs, and insights on local, provincial, national, international conversations. Cesar Nadima Musa. What is up, Cesar?
Hi, Dr. Vibe. Thanks for having me. And it jeopardizes your ability to sustain yourself financially.
40 programs have been suspended due to the drop in revenue.
We see this happening over and over again throughout history.
What does that tell you about America? Yeah, what does it tell you about America? But that's a whole other conversation.
I
All
need
right.
that Wu-Tang sweatshirt, though.
Huh?
I said, I need that Wu-Tang sweatshirt, though.
Cesar,
Right.
Cesar's hardcore, man. Cesar he does not play. Cesar is hardcore. All right, let's get to it. So, house stuff. Girlfriends chat with Aisha, LaLa, and Jill Jones. Old address at Patreon. New address on Substack. Also, Primetime Saturday store. There is the link there. Also, join the Discord group. Link is there, or you can email me at dr@vibeshow.com. Always subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Also follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and Substack. And if you want to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I show my shiny head on, yes, it is shaved every day. You can email me at dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. And cannot go without saying IndieSoup Media. What's IndieSoup Media, Dr. Tachi?
IndieSoup Media is an independent network for independent content creators that I am the founder of, and you can find some wonderful programming on there, like many of Dr. Vibe shows, and soon we'll have Aisha, I trust. So,
All right. And how many subscribers
Working on
right
it.
now?
we're still hovering almost at 27.8. We're nearly there. So,
All right.
That's what I was actually doing in the podcast studio today, was working out a test, and I locked myself out.
All right. And before we get started, if you have a take or want to join the conversation on your phone, tablet, laptop, desktop, put in your favorite browser, callme.road.com, or if you have a smartphone, swipe the QR code. It will take you to a website. In the website, put in FSPL8L, because there's a code that's going to come up there, but you can just type in that code, put in your name, and hit the green button, join the call, and you will be able to join the conversation in real time. All right, let's get to our first conversation piece. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Director Susan Monarez is fired, and other agency leaders resign. What go on with that?
Well, I can tell you the stupidest thing I heard this morning was RFK Jr. saying we cannot trust the experts.
So you're saying you're not an expert. Thank you.
Right. Because see, he's barely an attorney. He's not a doctor, he's not a scientist, and he's barely an attorney. The Centers for Disease Control they determine whether the research is valid. They test the research. They put it through tests. There are standards. These are people who are experts in their field. These are scientists, right? These are people who, if one research study says something, they go for the consensus across the board. They make sure that things are peer reviewed and that people are vetted. They make sure that the research is vetted before they make recommendations. And then the recommendations across, not just within the CDC, but across the profession, right, of science and medicine is solid. Look, them saying that measles, mumps, and rubella vaccines, oh, everybody should, but it's not just coming out of nowhere. This is based on 50 years of science, okay? And to fire her, what was funny to me was that, and this tells you how just utterly stupid everyone in this administration is. Caroline Leavitt had the nerve to say, well, Susan Monarez, she wasn't even confirmed. Yes, she was. Like 2 months ago. Confirmed over almost unanimously by people on the right. They said that she was qualified to do the job, but the reason that she was fired is because she told them there are two things she was not going to do. She was not going to lie, and she was not going to give into the politics of this. She was always going to vet the science. And when she was asked to do something that she said she was not going to do, that was her red line. And here's the other thing. They fired her by social media, but hadn't fired her. And this is the problem with this administration. Do you know there's a new strain of COVID that is an outbreak in California? They have decided that they would not make the vaccine available. The same people who are like, oh, it's my body, my choice when it comes to COVID, we don't want any mandate, have basically made it so that no one can get it. Well, that is a mandate. You don't want a vaccine mandate, but you mandated that people cannot get it. Leave the choice up to people. If they want to get it, they can get it. If they don't, they shouldn't. But to say that only children and people over 65, if the people over 65 have certain medical conditions, can get it. Like, for example, I know my youngest sister can get it because she has a transplanted kidney. So I know she can get it. She's a health risk. I know I can get it because I have anemia, but anybody else who's not in that, everybody else in my family doesn't qualify. And this super strain of COVID, it's sad because he can't even take credit for the vaccine that was formed under his presidency. It's like you have to fight the invention under you. That's really sick. And I don't understand what RFK Jr. has against vaccines. Maybe if he took one, that worm wouldn't have entered his brain. But it wasn't the worm, it was the smack in his veins.
Well, told him. I sorry, may I? Or go ahead, Dr. Vibe.
Absolutely, please and thank you.
So 100%, Aisha. First of all, I think we need to rename the CDC. It is no longer the Centers for Disease Control. It is the Centers for Disease Cultivation, because that's exactly what they're doing with the mandates or lack of mandates that are coming down. It's already very obvious that it has stacked every agency that has to do with government with the people he thinks will fan him as he walks by on the donkey. Okay, because he does think he's Jesus. Just in case you didn't know. So I think that's what's already very clear. That's what he wants. What's troubling with all of it, not surprising, but troubling, is who was it? Is it O'Neill that is replacing Monarez? So O'Neill is replacing Monarez. And from what I read, and Aisha, you probably have seen the same thing, that when it comes to certain medications, he is in favor of letting the consumer take the risk for the medications rather than it being vetted, as Aisha said, vetted and tested. Oh, we'll let the consumer take the risk. I think that's a very dangerous road to go down, to put the onus on the individual. Because then if we're looking at this, then what am I paying taxes for? Because all of this is funded through tax dollars. Let's be clear. So you're now, not only are you doing a job, but you're refusing to do any job at all. In that case, by letting the consumer assume any risk. But no, we pay you to do the testing so that we are safe with these types of things. So it's, yes, more morally, you're supposed to make sure that you're not just your constituents, but you are supposed to make sure that the people of your country thrive and are safe. That's the only way you have a thriving country. Daft people don't get that, but that's the only way you have a thriving country. But now you are also making us pay to harm ourselves. That to me is diabolical.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on with the state of health? Like, this is really, from where I'm looking at it, going, what's going on? Like, don't trust the experts?
Well, here's the thing with what Dr. Tachi just said. If the onus is on the individual, then patients can't sue the pharmaceutical companies. And you have to remember where these people are getting their money from. Their donors are big pharma and the insurance companies. Then the insurance companies also won't have to pay out for these medications, to cover these medications. That's where all this is coming from. And also, too, this fits in line, like in my comment that I made on YouTube. This is Stephen Miller's eugenics dream, right?
Yes.
Remember, 1.1 million people died from COVID. Think about how many people will die if measles, mumps, rubella, polio all come back. Like at our age, we're at risk for shingles. Because we didn't get varicella vaccines. We just got chickenpox. So we're immune to chickenpox, but the disease is in us because we just got chickenpox. But our kids got the varicella vaccine, which would cover shingles. They won't need to get a shingles vaccine. But they're doing this because they can. They're doing this because it's very clear that the CDC is now not there to function to serve and protect the people. What that control and prevention part of Centers for Disease Control and Prevention stands for now is to control whether or not people get access to healthcare, health coverage, to medications and treatments, and prevent them from getting access to it. Period.
Absolutely, because this is bigger than just trying to make money off of individuals by charging exorbitant rates for your medicines and drugs, and having it okayed because you lobbied. This is bigger than this. This is also an administration that really takes joy in human suffering. They enjoy seeing people, and that is the difference between now and what had happened before. So even though GOP has always been deplorable, there was at least a moral line where we don't enjoy seeing people suffer. I may think I may deserve something more than you, but I don't enjoy seeing people suffer. This current strain, and they are a strain because they are a disease, this current strain of administration enjoys human suffering.
Yeah. And you know what's so funny to me is, you know, that chick that went to jail for basically for fraud, saying that
Yes.
you get the one stick thing in the blood. I promise you, when she gets out of jail, if she put it this way, she's not going to even serve all her time. She's going to end up with a pardon, and then you know what? She's going to end up working at the CDC.
Why not?
Why not? RFK does.
Oh, and the other thing, talking about the COVID vaccine and this new strain, it is, and this is the thing, I'm always diligent with masking, but I'm like about to be double diligent with this now, because this new strain is actually being termed the razor blade COVID.
Yeah.
And that's because of the effect that it has on your throat, where it feels like you are basically swallowing razors or broken glass. And what they were saying is that it could be that this was a symptom before. There's two things. It could be that it evolved, the way that the strain has evolved is attacking something different. The everything in your throat goes into overdrive, and that's what's causing it. But then they also said it could be that this was also part of other COVID strains and infections, but because the other symptoms were so severe, you didn't notice that this was a thing. So one of two things or both could be true about this. So it's not a joke.
Yeah, well, you know, my best friend was telling me today that, you know, a former teacher at her school had gotten COVID so bad the first time that, and she's in her 50s, she's young, and that now the effects of it is that she has to get a medication
Ouch.
that her insurance might not cover, or
Really?
or a lung transplant. And basically her life expectancy is 3 to 5 years.
My
How-
God.
How does this affect the insurance company business?
So, go ahead.
That's a whole other onion to unpeel, to peel, because, you know, the insurance companies, well, on one hand, they are going to, on one hand, it is a loss for them, right? Because they make money when people get sick, on one hand, right? So not enough people are going to be taking the vaccine, but then the few people that are eligible for it, they're going to charge an astronomical amount to cover for that. And then a lot of people are going to have high copays for
Yep.
this vaccine. So the burden is going to be on the people again, because the pharmaceutical company is going to price it at this. The insurance company is going to be like, oh, we're going to have to take a lot of this because people just aren't going to be able to take it. Fewer people are going to be able to take it. If everybody could take it, like when it was a mandate, you could get the COVID vaccine basically for free because the federal government was subsidizing it, and insurance companies, where more people were taking it, it was a lot cheaper. But now, I mean, it's going to be a hot mess. And you know what
I agree.
I'm afraid of, like, the last time when he was president, EpiPens went
Yes.
from $40 to $500. And I was so scared that I was like, before they went up, I had my doctor write me several prescriptions.
Wow. Wow. So Jen says they're dragging their feet with this COVID shot. I wonder how long until pharmacists will have it.
Well, here's the other thing is that now, even if you are at high risk, you have to get a prescription for it from your doctor.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Dr. Tachi.
With regard to the insurance companies, this is, as Aisha said, this is already a mess. Let's be real. Insurance companies are already a mess. They already don't want to pay for things. They find any way possible not to pay for things. Never mind, it doesn't matter how long you've been paying into the system and never used it, which was my case. I never used it when I was at the university, and then I tore my ACL, and I needed to have yeah, but I'm fine. I healed really quick. So then I needed to do whatever, and use it. But they were not like wanting to pay for the whole thing for the MRI. So, I said, do you understand how long I've had this insurance and never used it except for doctor's visits? And now you're refusing to do that. So this has always been what they've done. So my thing is the increase in refusals, because they only care about the bottom line. I don't care what any of these insurance companies say. Their thing is the bottom line. This is why their executives fly on private jets, have all this money, and which shouldn't be when you're paying into the system and your payments pay their salary, right? So I just really see an increase in refusals for these types of things because they're concerned about the bottom line.
Yep.
More people being sick. And as you said, with these new strains, you don't know what the long-term effects are sometimes with the long COVID, which can lead to other things. Disgusting. So guess what? It's business as usual for the insurance companies. This is not going to affect them more in the least. They're just going to double down on the type of debauchery they already do to ensure that they continue to profit.
And let me tell you something. When you have chronic issues, it's a lot. I take 24 pills a day. Okay?
Wow.
But just really for just 3 or 4 conditions, right? I looked at what my insurance pays per month, and I was just like, oh my God. If I had to pay this myself, I would just never leave the house. So I know it's about to get really bad. Really, really bad. And look, I'm lucky that some of my medications do double duty. Like my migraine medication is also a seizure med. And that's one reason why my doctor gave it to me.
And may I also add, let's look at this is related. Let's look at what's happening with the stupid farmers that voted for him and now they're having problems. We know medicine is food, right? Or food is medicine.
Yep.
And eating properly, not that serves or solves COVID. I'm not saying that. But in terms of some of these other conditions that do have to do with nutrition, do have to do with getting the proper nutrient, that's all in jeopardy now. You've thrown out the people who pick the fruits, the vegetables and things. You've made it difficult and impossible for farmers, whether they're small or large, to thrive. That leads to a population that is increasingly reliant on packaged food.
And that's not going to be available either because, my best friend was telling me today she drove past a cornfield, right? The corn was all rotting. Remember, a lot of American packaged food is made with corn syrup.
Corn.
And corn, yeah, they don't have it.
So that too. So
Corn's used to feed cattle.
Exactly. But again, I can see them making deals with some unsavory characters that would provide such food. So that all is directly related to health and insurance companies and what they will pay for. It's
Right.
all related. And then,
Right.
unfortunately, it's all by design. You don't want to have conspiracy theorist thoughts, but these things
Mhm.
are not conspiracy. They are now reality.
Right. I was actually just watching a video of Trevor Noah explaining how now the food companies are going back trying to redo all their recipes because so many people are on GLP-1s
Hmm.
and they're trying to make their
Mm.
food GLP-1 resistant.
I,
So they're trying
I
to make people fat and sick on purpose.
so just want to got some comments here. Walamala, good to see you in the house, saying you are punished for using things you pay for. And then Jen says,
Mhm.
I still don't have a normal sense of smell and definitely some form of long COVID. It is crazy.
Mm. So
Yeah.
sorry.
Mm. And it's like we have we have a lot of things that we pay for in this country out of fear. They make us pay for
Yes.
things out of fear. You know,
Mm.
you need to have this kind of insurance just in case, and this one just in case, and this just in case. You need to have a gun in your house just in case. And oftentimes, just in case never happens. But then when it does happen and you go to use it, they're like, oh, well, we don't cover this in this circumstance. Or, well, you should have done this, or you should have gotten a bigger policy. It's like, what? I was low
Ex- ex-
risk.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the thing. I mean, even looking at, okay, let's look at homeowners insurance and
In,
things. And
in Florida,
because
especially.
in Florida, especially, but now nobody is exempt. If you live on the coast of anywhere, now you're not exempt because of climate change. These types of stronger storms now affect you. So New York City before was like, whatever. Now that's you too, right? So, they homeowners insurance here, let me just tell you what my before used to be pittance. Now it's $7,000 a year
For what?
for
Flood
me not to use
insurance.
it.
Right.
Flood,
And
right. It's not
the
even.
flood
It's not
insurance is the
even.
biggest part.
But here's the thing: it's not even flood insurance because I don't live in a flood zone. So
Right.
this is wind insurance for windstorms. Flood insurance is extra.
Oh God. You want me look, I can tell you something else. You can't rent an apartment in Connecticut without having renter's insurance.
Hmm.
Because the buildings are trying not to be responsible for things.
Well, no, because you're paying for the insurance of their building. You have to have $100,000 policy.
What?
Yes. The minute
Wait a
a
minute
hundred
now.
thousand. Yes, you have to have a
I thought
hundred
the
thousand dollars.
renter's insurance was just covering your belongings inside the apartment. Is
No,
that
it's
also the structure?
it's also to cover the structure of your apartment in case there's a fire in your apartment and the apartment needs to be renovated.
That's not my
Yes.
house.
Right. Mhm. Mhm.
Wow.
I don't own that property, but yeah, you got to rent. You got to pay the rent. The renter's insurance should cover your things and your belongings, and 100,000 in case there's something happens with the apartment that you're renting. So basically, if you charge that for everybody that lives on the property, you've covered the insurance for the property. Mhm.
Wow. 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 So we got some comments here. Jen says, have they provided yet the exact criteria on what conditions qualify someone to be able to get the COVID shot?
You have to have a serious health condition.
What does that mean?
Usually, basically something that could be like considered like a comorbidity. So it would be something like diabetes, something like heart disease, something like anemia, which would make you immunocompromised, something like an organ donation, um, something like seizures, asthma, um, RSV, COPD, anything that's a lung issue. If you have cancer, you would qualify. But that's pretty much it. If you're like 90 years old or something, 80 or 90 years old, you qualify. My grandparents qualify because they're 90.
Wow. The
But yeah,
Wallamala says it's crazy how a
but
multi-billion-dollar industry thrives on quote what ifs unquote,
mhm.
and they find any reason to deny if those quote what ifs unquote happen.
And just for Jen's comment, COVID is just the start. They're going to move on to the other vaccines.
Hmm.
The next one's going to be measles. I promise you, because remember, RFK Jr. I don't understand it, but for some reason he is still harping on that 1999 that 1990s garbage about vaccines causing autism. Science has debunked that. To be very clear, they know there's something about it that's genetic. They know
Absolutely.
that part of
And
it.
autism existed before rampant vaccines
Right.
existed. Remember,
Right.
lots of these vaccines are only as of the 20th century. Let's
Right.
be clear.
We just didn't
So
have a name for autism, but
we
we
didn't have
had
a name
kids.
for it.
Right. We couldn't name it, but we did have kids who knew it. They were just thrown into special ed classes, and no one diagnosed them beyond being
Exactly.
quote unquote slow or just they are different, right?
Or
But he,
retarded, as they
right,
used to
a
say.
catch-all, right?
Right.
But here's the thing: the reason that these people, and it was mostly Jen Jones's people, who latched onto the vaccine caused the autism thing, was because they could not handle being told, you got bad genes. It's you. You're the problem. It's your fault. The same people who planned schedules for their kids, who wanted their kids to have trophies for even just, they showed up to school,
Existing.
for existing, didn't want to believe that they could have contributed. Well, when the men are wearing their jeans extra tight, nut crunchers in the front, and the sperm were coming out three-headed, two-tailed, and all that. Oh yeah, that couldn't possibly be the reason that your kid has autism. You know what I mean?
Well,
Come on.
remember, they don't like to blame maladies connected to birth on men anyway. Remember, especially back then, if you could not get pregnant or there was something wrong with the child, it was always put on the mother. Something was wrong on that end.
Right.
So it's societally ascribed that it probably, and I think people still feel this way. Oh, it can't be my fault.
Well, like Prince said, there's something in the water. Does
Yeah.
not compute. That might be the reason. There might have been something in the water. I mean, there's a whole array of things, but again, people are just fundamentally stupid. You know what? It's kind of like this meme I saw yesterday that this guy decided he was going to post big and loud on the on Beyonce's internet. And you know what he said? Y'all are stupid. Y'all work um, a whole y'all work a whole week and only make $900. I make $900 in 7 days. See, we're not the same.
No, I don't want to do OnlyFans.
But what kills no, but think about it. You make $900 in a week. I make $900 in 7 days. We're not the same.
Oh wait, he said I make $900 in seven
No,
days,
he
and
said you make $900 in a week. I make $900 in only 7 days. We're not the same.
we're not the same. No, we're not the same.
No, because
If you
I
don't know
know.
that 7 days equals a week.
And if I make $900 in a week, it's probably just a 5 day work week, which means I make more because you don't do
Exactly.
math and you can't count. But that's what this presidency is like. That's what this thing with the CDC is like. It's like, dude, do you realize that when people don't have access to vaccines, they get sick. They get those maladies, right?
Right.
They don't get like they're unprotected. So if
But
somebody shows
again,
up, right,
again, this administration enjoys seeing people suffer. There are people that are sociopaths that
hmm
really don't care, either don't care at all or enjoy seeing people suffer. And all of this has the markings all over it that you really enjoy seeing people suffer because you can, and it makes you feel powerful. See, when you don't have very much intelligence and you don't have very much going for you in the way of anything else, what you do have maybe is control of the people. And control in terms of making them do what you want them to do, but also in terms of making their lives miserable.
You know, I'm writing this article because it dawned on me over the last couple of days that this thing between Gavin Newsom and Donald Trump reminds me a whole
Which I
lot
love.
of the 1990. Me too, but it reminds me a whole lot of the 1995 East Coast West Coast beef.
Mm.
And one thing I wrote was that if you ask Biggie Small Hands how he's living, and he doesn't say the correct answer is, I'm surrounded by criminals, which he is, because basically his cabinet is the junior mafia. I think that's about right.
I think you're correct.
Because their theme song is literally Get Money.
So Jen says, I'm so glad I already got my flu shot.
I'm glad for you. I get mine next week when I go to see my doctor. But this is literally a criminal cabinet, and they're like literally on the island of misfit toys.
Let me ask both of you, what are some suggestions to turn, well, I think it's a bigger conversation with the whole American healthcare system. That's a whole other conversation.
It's already bad. He just made it worse.
Okay.
He broke it. But something that was already broken that you didn't think could break anymore, he just smashed it into a billion little pieces.
It can't be salvaged. I'm sorry. It cannot be salvaged. It's completely broken and can't be salvaged. And so this is what I foresee happening. There is going to be, and it's already happening, but this increase of medical tourism to places like, Mexico may be like, oh, you all are, but going to places like Mexico, going to places like Turkey, and going to places where in Asia, where the medicine is good and it's going to be much less expensive for you. All these critical procedures, all these, non-critical procedures, that's what's going to happen. An increase in medical tourism.
But then you got to be careful, because remember that black woman went to Mexico to get the butt lift, and then they kidnapped her and killed her. You gotta be careful, man.
You have to be, you have to do your research. You have to be very careful. You have to go to vetted sources. Don't just pick anybody, right? You have to be very careful, definitely. But, then the choice is I stay here and I can't get treated either. So, or I can't afford to get treated. So then what? You just live with a condition that is uncertain. I think for most people, they'd be willing to take the chance to go someplace to get well.
Well, there goes my tummy tuck.
I appreciate what both you are saying, but especially Dr. Tachi, you're saying about the medical tourism, but that only helps a minority. What about the majority?
They don't give a damn about the majority. But don't you know the U.S. by now?
But guess what? The majority doesn't care, because as long as black and brown people don't get it, they don't get it.
And remember, this is also an individualistic country. Western countries are by and large very individualistic, where the success of the individual is prized above the success of the group. And so because that is the attitude here, it really doesn't matter. It's like, well, you did not work hard enough to afford to be able to treat your things, or you did something to exacerbate whatever, and it's your fault. So if they can point to the fact that it's external locus of control, if they can point to the fact that it's your fault, I don't feel compelled to do anything about it because it's you. This is why they make everything about the individual. It is your fault somehow. I'm going to deny you payment of this because you did X, Y, Z. So even, there are cases obviously where like, did you need that third ding dong? This is why your blood pressure is high, So there are cases where people are self-inflicting these things, but for the most case, who wants to be sick?
Right.
Nobody wants to be sick.
And the cultures that try to look out for the group are the cultures that they're trying to destroy and erase.
That too.
Okay.
That too.
Because they don't like collective action. Put it this way, they hate so much they don't have any group. They have cult think. They don't have any group thing where the group is greater than the individual as a method of culture and cultural transmission. Because
Correct.
literally they don't have a culture. Their culture is just the usurpation of other cultures that they've crafted into their own right. But when there are cultures that have cohesive cultures that are the same across the board, then it's kind of like, yeah, we don't like you having those things, so we're going to just try and separate you from this and to be more like us. Because think about it. As Black people, we have a culture that transcends us, not just being in America. Black Canadians share a cultural lineage with African Americans who share a cultural lineage with Black people in the Caribbean and in Africa. There are certain things, threads that came across the continent and throughout, where the diaspora, we're all at. They don't have that. And that makes them mad. That the Latinos have that with regard to their language. They don't have that, and that makes them mad. That's why, because when you sit and you hear them say, why would you get so angry somebody speaking their native tongue? They don't have that, and that makes them mad. And so here we are with this thing with the CDC, and it's, again, like Dr. Tachi said, a locus of control. We can control the masses this way, period. And that's what it's about.
Yeah, I see you shaking your head. It's very sad. It's very sad because the thing is, we've seen this before. This is not new, but it's never been as diabolical and dire as it is now. And you just shake your head. It's like you really have nothing else to do but to inflict suffering on people. You purposely want people to suffer, and I know really they want Black people to suffer, brown people to suffer, people of the global South, quote unquote, to suffer. But on passant, on passage there, everybody suffers. And this is what people who don't have critical thinking skills don't see. So really, as long as you, 1%, billionaires, people making lots of money, don't suffer, it is okay.
Yeah. Like, do you remember why Ronald Reagan let the AIDS epidemic in the 80s just not do anything?
Because it was
Why he didn't?
affecting initially affecting a certain population of people that they wanted to be rid of anyway. And so, because the story was, oh, it only affects this group, we don't really have to do anything about it. We'll just wait till it kills everybody off, not knowing that anybody could catch this. And then it got out of control. And I remember I was in elementary school and, we were learning about this. And I remember my teacher saying, had they just really quarantined the individuals, we would have been able to have a handle on this. Now, I don't know how true it was, but it makes sense that if they had done this, they would have been able to get a handle on it, but they didn't want a handle on it.
No, they didn't. And then what happened in the 90s with that particular epidemic? Who exactly was getting sick the fastest? Black women. And again, they did nothing in our communities to stop it. So they did that with this. They're just taking their lessons from the past. What are they going to do with all these ailments? They're going to withhold vaccines because they think that they can get rid of the populations they don't like.
And you know what I don't see enough of? The so-called United Nations, the so-called global court or world court. I don't see these people doing anything.
Mm-mm.
This is planned genocide,
Yeah,
and you all are doing nothing about it.
yeah.
That's why I look at them and I'm like, you all are completely useless. You see what's
Mhm.
happening and you refuse to do anything.
But I do remember one thing from 2020. The one thing that that man did in 2020 that I think he's probably going to do now. Remember, back then he didn't have. Well, he had it in the Rose Garden, but they got rid of the Rose Garden now and filled it up with tables and a white slab or something. He held a super spreader event. Remember, he had that little event in the White House, and everybody that left there got COVID. That's
Yes.
that's where he got COVID. Oh, you know he's going to have another one. He almost died the first time that he had COVID. Herman Cain died.
Hmm.
He's going to have another super spreader event. I promise you that. Because if there's one thing that man likes, it's having a rally or having a fundraiser where everybody's paying attention to him, and somebody with COVID will show up
Without a mask.
without a
Mm.
mask
Mm.
and without being tested, and will shake his hand. That's already bruised up from congestive heart failure.
Well, we will continue with this story as the health of America, at least physical health, is in the balance, and slowly but surely seems to be going downhill. So we'll certainly keep uh, uh, attention on this.
You ever go down a hill in a
Yes.
slide in the snow, in a sled in the snow?
Yeah.
That's how we're going.
Okay. All
It
right.
will not. It will not be slow.
Okay. Leading into, you talked about elimination of certain cultures of people. We're marking the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina and how it can happen again. I think it's a good segue.
Oh God! When you're called refugees in your own country, that's like the ultimate in dehumanization. The way that they talked about people. Um, I just I went to Mississippi like right after, and part of Hurricane Katrina touched this part of Mississippi I was at, and that was bad. I could only imagine what New Orleans looked like. But I do remember watching live on TV, and one of the things that really stuck out to me were those videos from the Superdome. How did they just put these people there with no supplies? We don't talk about the rapes and things that were there, because the other thing too is that they put regular people in with people who were literal sex offenders and criminals. They didn't have they had no supplies for people with babies who needed diapers and formula. They had no food. They literally were referring to people as animals. These are people who lost everything they had and had no place to go because the Republicans in the state didn't care to prepare. They knew it was coming. They knew it was coming. They helped the white people get out. And then there is one thing that really bothers me too. The thing that bothers me the most. I watched one of these documentaries, and there was a black man, a little, who was yelling there was a sniper. And so rescue people then didn't want to go help these people. These people were in the Superdome with dead bodies that were decomposing. There were bodies floating in the streets as reporters were in boats it was just, I don't know how anyone can get over that trauma. I just don't.
It's I can't believe it's 20 years already, because that
Mm-mm.
happened actually when I had just moved to Florida, and we got Katrina first.
Mm.
So Katrina hit us, but it hit us as a category 1. Once it passed over Florida, that's when it strengthened in the Gulf and turned into that Cat 4 storm that hit. So that same storm, it's crazy because it like, I really didn't think it was going to be as serious because it hit us and it was a category 1. Okay, one may be a low, barely a 2. Okay, it didn't do anything really. And then it just got so strong. Part of the thing is that when you always hear people say, okay, leave, you have to get out. Well, go
Mhm.
where? When you're talking to people that are working class and below working class, lower class, they don't have choices as where to go. They may not even have a car to get out, to drive out there were some people. I have two friends that are and colleagues that went to Howard with me that were professors at Xavier at the time. And according to them, you know, there were always like warnings and things, but sometimes these didn't really happen or it wasn't that big of a deal. So they didn't know, but they said, you know what? No, this time let's go. We're going to go to Texas. We're going to go to Houston. They lost everything. Luckily for them, Texas Southern University says, well, we'll hire you. Come on, stay here. But that's not everybody's case. They were very lucky. What happens when you lose everything? What do you do? Where do you live now? And so when you're telling people to get out, number one, you have to have some place. If you're telling them to
Place
evacuate,
to go.
where are they evacuating to? You have to have a plan to evacuate them. This also points to the health of your city and your state and the per capita income of your city and your state. You really see how poor and broke people are when there's an emergency and they can't get out. That's a failure on you. That is a city, county, and state failure. Secondly, let's look at the fact why this even happened at all. Yes, it was a strong storm, but remember, New Orleans is below sea level. Have you seen Lake Pontchartrain and that joke of a levee that they have? They made it. You might as well have gone to Lowe's or to Ace Hardware and bought bags of potting soil and made it. That's what their levee is. It's not. I'm like, it never fails to amaze me how you cannot look at a city that is equivalent to yours that has managed to stave off major floods. Amsterdam, they're below sea level. Have you seen their levees? They don't play. All it takes is one time for them, and they're like, no, we have to make sure that this is safe. But you all keep playing around because you think, and that's the thing. There's a lack of respect for nature, and somehow they think they are bigger than God, and we don't have to do this. We won't. Well, look at your levees now. So the damage was done because the levees were breached, causing the flooding. That was the big problem.
Mm-hmm. And the land sits below sea level. That's the other thing that people don't realize is that the land in New Orleans sits below sea level. Those levees and the levees are such that they're supposed to keep any kind of rising water. And because the water was like going to go over the pressure from that is what made it come in and flood. That's why the houses were underwater, because if you've ever been to New Orleans, you can see how below the water you really are.
Go ahead.
Is this, in parallel to what both you ladies were saying with our first story, is this another example of the lack of, I'm just putting it, care, attention for people who are Black and brown in America?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, of course.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Absolutely. Because if you look at who was affected the most, that's a huge indication. And definitely culture or ethnicity here also overcrosses with money, right?
Yeah.
You can't really separate the two because even though it's not always the case, generally communities of color tend to have less money than other communities. That
Yeah.
factors into whether or not they're able to do things for themselves. You already know the state is not and the city are not interested in necessarily doing anything for you.
Hmm.
So then what? Now what?
Hmm.
And here's the thing, Ray Nagin at the time was the
Yeah.
mayor of New Orleans. And it was just almost a business as usual type of thing. Because honestly, although it didn't start with him, those same levies have been in place forever. That he is going to get blamed for that
Hmm.
because of the lack of emergency, and he was blamed for the lack of emergency response. Honestly, what should have happened is we're below sea level. Hurricanes come here. We need to find a way to strengthen these levees so that we don't have this. And then when
Right.
you're talking about, so if you've been to New Orleans, I don't know if you've been to New Orleans, Dr. Vibe, but you can't bury people in New Orleans because they're
No,
below sea level. So what
that's right.
happens is if you do that, everything floats to the top. So they have to do mausoleums, right?
And
So
those were floating.
and those were floating.
Hmm.
So imagine the amount of disease
Hmm.
that was present there because of that.
And then all the bodies decomposing in the water along the street. They said the smell was reminiscent of Jonestown after all those people were dead. 'Cause you got to remember, at that time, it was this time, around this time in 2005. Look, I went to Mississippi a few days later, and it was 115. So it was hot in New Orleans. And then there's all this water. So, the mosquitoes were all over the place. The
And
flies were
that's
all
where
over
you
the
get
place.
mosquito
And
borne
that's where you get disease.
diseases.
Yep. And you know what else, too? I keep thinking about how um, the people also must have felt because just 4 years prior to that, George Bush gave a lot of attention to people in 9/11. Now, I'm not playing tragedy Olympics here, but when you look at 9/11 and what happened, they disregarded any of the black and brown people who died in that, right? There were like, what was it? It was like 40 or 50 black kids who were on the plane going toward California that died with their teachers. We never talk about that unless you read Ebony and Essence. You don't know about that, right? But all you know are about these white guys who tried to stop the bomber and all that, and these businessmen who worked there, right? Not the 50 or so Mexican cooks at the top on the top floor who died. So because the faces of 9/11 were white, you see them getting immediate help from the government, right? But here with Katrina, because the faces of Katrina were black, and now black people weren't just the only ones in New Orleans who were suffering, right? But the faces that they used to dehumanize Katrina victims were black. And so I just wrote the comment, but imagine if FEMA had come through when they knew it was going to be a Category 4 and gave everyone who couldn't afford to get out just $1,000. Say, here's some money. We know it's not a lot, but it's what we can do to get everybody get out. Imagine if they had done that.
And then if you don't go, that's on you.
Right.
But
It was
provide buses, provide.
right. Get a bus ticket for you and your family, get a hotel room for whatever. And a lot of those people didn't get their houses back. Instead, what did they do? The city took them over and sold them so they could be gentrified. But guess who got thousands and millions of dollars from FEMA to rebuild? Restaurants and businesses that don't belong to the black people in New Orleans who make up the majority of the city's population. How unfair is that? Conditions were so bad at the Superdome, they tore it down. Let's not forget that bit of history. And the only sane person at the time saying this is the most unhinged person today. That's Kanye West.
Kanye West.
And I mean, it should tell you something when I don't think he got it yet. When George Bush says the worst day of his life in his the worst day of his life in his presidency was Kanye West saying that George Bush does not care about black people. That was his worst day. Not September 11th, not Hurricane. What Kanye said was his worst day. Not any of the wars that no. What Kanye said hurt his feelings the most. Well, maybe because it was true.
What lessons, if any, potentially has America learned 20 years after Hurricane Katrina?
None, because here's the thing. We know that it can and it will happen again because Kristi Noem wants to get rid of FEMA. Remember, Department of Homeland Security, which she is over, would take care of this. And I promise you, if some kind of hurricane comes through and black and brown people are affected, she will not do anything. As a matter of fact, we know this because Governor Wes Moore asked for money to help from the flooding, and the Trump team told him no. They pulled back the funding. First, he lied and said he gave Wes Moore millions and millions of dollars to rebuild the bridge. No, he didn't. That was Joe Biden. But then he turned around and took back the money Joe Biden gave him to fix the bridge, right? Who else had money and asked for money because of some flooding and hurricane stuff that happened? He said no, because he has decided that he's not helping blue states, even though there are pockets in those blue states that voted for him. So yeah,
And those pockets,
mm-hmm.
it can happen again. And to your question, has the U.S. learned anything? No, because the other thing that's been done is the slow dismantling of the National Weather Service.
Right.
So now, because of the lack of personnel there, they're not going to be able to predict as well as they have in the past. Like this razor sharp prediction that we're not going to get that as much anymore because they're slowly trying to dismantle all of these things.
Mm-hmm. And Trump's motto is, we don't want people who know things in positions of leadership. He wants people who will take his orders, because for some reason, this man who never read a book seems to think that he knows everything and he knows nothing. It's so bad that a news reporter caught a picture of the little poster board with the pictures and cutouts that Tulsi Gabbard had to give him as a press, in lieu of a presidential briefing, because he doesn't read. It's crazy town in here.
Doesn't read or can't read. I think all
Both.
of that is well,
Both.
which makes sense because he's now making up for any insecurities about his lack of intelligence. So then go ahead.
He has so much in common with R. Kelly.
Interesting.
Yeah, because remember, R. Kelly can't read either.
That's true.
And he has the nerve to call himself the Pied Piper of R&B. You know, the Pied Piper used music to take kids away from their parents before he
Exactly.
Exactly. And Trump pretty much does the same thing.
Whoa. Interesting analogy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been thinking about that one because I got another article I'm working on called MAGA is having its R. Kelly moment.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah, they are. We had ours. Look, we've been had ours.
before we move on to our next conversation piece, then will we just say Katrina's just another event in history of America showing lack of
Yeah.
respect for Black and brown people?
Yeah. What happened 20 years ago in New Orleans is no different than what happened in Tulsa, right? They this was just nature, but the negligence, the dehumanization, the humiliation was man-made. And the news media should be ashamed of themselves because they fed into it. They put out every stereotype they could. They did all of that in the name of getting ratings.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And this is why I'm really of the belief, and both you and I are journalists.
Hmm.
I really believe in the strength and the power of journalism and getting the story and showing the human side of things. But I don't trust mainstream media. They have shown they are not trustworthy. They cannot be trusted. They've always been beholden to advertising. Let's be clear there. They've always very much been beholden to advertising. But now add that and the fervor for money together with an administration that pressures them to report things a certain way. I don't trust you. So you can say any number of things. I won't trust you today. I won't trust you tomorrow. And so this is really the time now that we need to be looking to independent sources
Hmm.
that are good independent sources to get our news from, because it's not them. It is
Right.
not mainstream commercial media.
And sometimes mainstream media, you're going to have to risk it all just for the sake of that. I know you don't want to be kicked out the room, but me, myself, I wouldn't care. I would be asking the question, I'm sorry, sir, which Black women are that said that they think you're doing a good job, and please come to Chicago. We voted for Kamala, but we really love you. Please tell me some names. What did they look like? Were they the figment of your imagination? Because the 92% of Black women did not vote for you, and I'm guessing that the same amount are not calling you. Also, too, can you please tell me, how do you bring drug prices down to 1,400%? That would mean that they were not only free, but that the pharmaceutical companies are handing out checks. I take 24 pills a day, so I want my checks. Somebody just needs to say it instead of just sitting there and letting him talk and talk and talk without saying, no. No, you did not do that. Barack Obama actually did that. No, you did not do that. Lyndon B. Johnson actually did that. And while we're at it, why are you undoing everything that Lyndon B. Johnson did? Why do you hate him so much? I mean,
He doesn't
mainstream
know
media,
that he's doing that.
right?
He doesn't know
Right,
who to be just.
right. Mainstream media needs to just, when he says something crazy and stupid, ask him why. Say it
They're
back to
too
him.
afraid.
Exactly. And that's the
They're
problem
too
I have.
afraid.
And like you said, they're not just too afraid, but when you start to look at the backgrounds of some of these people in mainstream media, you realize that they get their positions mostly because they're Nepo babies. I learned a whole lot about Katie Tur. Her parents were journalists. I learned that Antonia Hilton, her aunt is Soledad O'Brien, Molly Jung Fast. Her mother is, I forgot what her mother's name, but wrote The Fear of Flying. I mean, Mara Gay, her father is a $1 million advertising exec. I'm like, oh, well, that would make sense why, when I thought I could actually get a job in mainstream media, why I kept getting overlooked. I don't have a connection in the media business. This is why. So things start to make sense, right?
It's all by connection. So, and
Mm-hmm.
the media business is no different. So,
Mm-hmm.
100%.
go ahead, Dr. Vibe.
No
Mm-hmm.
problem. As we move on to our next conversation piece, 47 planned takeover of cities. I also want to remind you, if you are watching live and you'd like to add to the conversation on whatever digital device you have, you can put in your favorite browser, callme.rome.com, road.com, or if you have a smartphone, swipe. When you get to that page, you put in your name, put in the code. Let me take the code. And you put in the code FSPL8L. Ignore the code that's already there. Just put FSP L8L and you can join our conversation. So let's do that. Let's talk about the planned takeover of cities.
Oh, sorry. I live in one of those blue states that he wants to take over. If you're going to send the National Guard to Connecticut, right? First of all, crime is down in our three largest cities that used to be like in the top 4 of cities, 125,000 or more with the worst violence stats. Like especially in the 90s, like my hometown was like always coming in at 1 or 3, between 1 and 3, right? Crime is way down. But Connecticut's like the 3rd smallest state in the union. If you're going to try and do the same kind of takeover you do in Chicago or Detroit or LA, you're basically covering the whole state. I mean, you could literally fit my whole state in the city of Los Angeles. So that would be dumb. But what I did read was that my state is a giver state. So is California, so is Massachusetts, Maryland, Michigan. And what I've read is that the giver states are talking about doing a soft secession. Because secession is illegal, but a soft secession would be them telling the federal government, you know what? The tax dollars that we collect from our residents, we're not giving it to you. Fix your own problems. We're keeping our money. And might even pool their money together, which means the rest of the economy would fall apart.
Absolutely.
Red states would fall apart because they are taker states. There would not be enough money for them to fund anything.
They don't have an economic base to do it by themselves. It is the blue states, particularly the northern states and those western states that are blue states, that fund everything. You don't have the economy to do that. And you certainly, because you are interested in keeping people daft and dumb, you certainly don't have the intelligence to do it. So I hope it happens.
I do too. We have really high property taxes, like property taxes, like for example, for your car, we got to pay property taxes in January and June. Like my car's property taxes are $1,000 a year. Yeah. Yeah.
Imagine what you could do with that. Your state could do with those things if they also did not have to remit federal taxes.
Yeah.
Fix your own problems.
We have a state income tax. We tax everything except for food. We used to not tax clothes, but we tax them now. And we tax everything, 6 cents on every dollar. So imagine that, right? It's insane. House property tax on housing. Oh my God. And my hometown, unfortunately, that's why my hometown struggles. That's why I see what that looks like with the giver and the taker, because my hometown, about 70% of the land there is tax exempt because Yale owns that land. And as an educational institution, it is tax exempt. They own properties, buildings, galleries, and things like that. So yeah, the hospital, all that stuff. So yeah, the city doesn't take in as much tax revenue because Yale owns all the tax exempt land. So that's what that would look like for the country. The blue states having 70% of the wealth, and the red states having to make do with what they have.
He's really invoking a soft civil war.
Yes, he is.
Let's be honest with this. That's actually what this is. When you intentionally go after blue states because they are, in your opinion, anti-you, and you make life difficult for you, it's not just the state. You are, again, this is, he doesn't care, but you are hurting the people of the state, even the small, stupid pockets who voted for you.
Right. And see, here's the thing about a soft civil war. When you're doing it and you don't have the money from the states that do support you to fight it, you're going to lose. Because see, the thing he's thinking is that he's going to keep taking our money and using it to hurt us. We're going to be like, nah, you're not getting this. Too bad. Sue us.
Because that's exactly what's happening. I mean, and if you think about it as an individual, it's like, wow. And you really expect black and brown people to keep paying you taxes to be persecuted.
Right.
Okay. Who is going to do that?
And here's the other thing I anticipate. We have had, as Black people, we've had about 3 or 4 great migrations. I see another one coming.
Back north.
Okay, so question, Aisha, where's the migration going to be to?
Probably to far west or northeast or like Chicago, Detroit, those areas in their suburbs. You're going to see people moving to Maryland. You're going to see people moving up to Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, even Rhode Island, actually. And that's a small place. You're going to see people moving definitely to Maryland. And if North Carolina keeps moving the way it's moving, because right now it's purple, if it keeps moving the way they're moving, you're going to see some people moving to North Carolina, Virginia. If it keeps moving the way it's moving from purple to red to blue, you're going to see that too.
And remember, with Virginia, they're a very particular state because it's kind of, in a way, it kind of mirrors Florida, whereas South Florida, with the exception of some of the stupid people in Miami, is very blue. And we have most of the people that live in this state, we have a heavy population here, right? Which is why it carries so off. Even though it's the red state, it's very heavily influenced blue because of that. And then when you look at Virginia, Northern Virginia, which is right outside DC, is really where the power is in Virginia, if you think about it. So Virginia could very well go that way heavily because, and this is what they didn't see, this DC takeover. Remember, the DMV is one area. It's not state, but it's one area. So when you look at what's happening with the takeover right across the bridge from you, you think this is not having an effect on the people that live in Maryland and in Virginia, Northern Virginia? It is.
Because most of them work in DC. People work from Sandy Springs and Alexandria. They work in DC. And you know, here's the other thing. If there's another great migration, the only time you're going to see a majority of Black people down in the South is when they just go to HBCUs and know that that's temporary.
Exactly. They're not, I mean, and that's temporary now. Let's talk about it. These places in the South, like a lot of these HBCUs are in places that, of course, were former farmland and things like that. Tuskegee, Alabama. Who do you really want to live there? So you go there, and Tuskegee has an amazing. Wait, did you go to Tuskegee? No.
I went to Fisk.
Fisk. Somebody went to Tuskegee. I knew you went to Fisk. So, Tuskegee has an excellent school of architecture. Well, what are you building in Tuskegee, Alabama? So there's already a brain drain. Students go and they leave.
Yep.
FAMU, Tallahassee. What is in Tallahassee? Yeah, it's the capital, but what kind of capital is that? Students go and they leave. So unless you're talking about an HBCU that's in a major city, okay, DC is a different case. Unless you're talking about Texas Southern, which is in Houston, people may stay around there. Houston is a major city, but for the most part, a lot of these places are in towns where there's not a lot of opportunity for what you studied anyway, so you end up leaving. So what's going
Yep.
to end up happening is there's going to be a severe brain drain that happened, and not just a brain drain from south to north or west, but a brain drain outside of the United States. So before we were talking about brain drain of people coming from other countries here, leaving their countries fallow of talent. I think it's going to go the other way now, because look at where people are moving to. Places in Asia, people are moving to South America, people are moving to Central America, places like Mexico and Costa Rica. So we have this where there are opportunities it's cheaper to live there. And
Mhm.
you can work from, as unlike before, you have a lot of digital nomads.
Right.
So why would anybody stay here? The
Right.
U.S. ought to be very careful. I'm saying. And the
Yeah.
southern U.S. needs to be very careful.
Yeah.
You all are
Well,
already working with nothing. Do you want more of nothing?
right. And honestly, I mean, the ones who do stay, you got to remember where they're going to be. In Mississippi, they're going to only be in Jackson. In Alabama, they're going to
Exactly.
be in Birmingham.
Birmingham,
In Georgia, they're going to be in Atlanta
Atlanta.
or Savannah. And that's it. And then in New Orleans, and in Louisiana, they're going to be in New Orleans or
New Orleans,
Shreveport,
maybe Baton Rouge.
maybe Baton Rouge or Shreveport. In North Carolina, it's going to be Charlotte or Raleigh. In South Carolina, it's going to be Columbia or Charleston. And in
Mhm.
Florida, it's going to be Tallahassee or the Miami area, or maybe Orlando. But for the most part,
Maybe
that's it.
Orlando.
And in Virginia, it's gonna be probably around Virginia Beach or around the Hampton area, around like where Hampton is, or Richmond. But you're not gonna get. I mean, other than black people aren't gonna be in them country places unless
No.
they were literally born there. I mean, like my father's side of the family, they're gonna stay out in Kingstree. They're gonna stay out in the Low Country, South Carolina, but that's because they always been there.
And that's what they know. And
You
there's
know,
nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being where you know. But
right?
when
But when it's a
again,
brain, when there's a brain, but the people who have the skills to take elsewhere, they're gonna leave.
absolutely. Why would you stay there to be persecuted, number one, paid to be persecuted, and there's not much opportunity there for you? Because and you did it to yourselves,
Right. And
South. You did it to yourselves.
and remember, employers now are picking up on that because with a lot of jobs that you can do remotely, especially in communications and things like that, they'll give you a pay differential if you live someplace else. Like if you live in Connecticut or New York or LA or someplace like that, they will pay you more than if you live in Alabama, South Carolina, Mississippi. And when I say they will pay you differently, I'm talking about like a $10,000 to $20,000 difference.
Mhm.
Because they'll tell you your cost of living is cheaper. So he
So
can
the
look.
takeovers will have repercussions in more than just a micro change. There'll be
Well,
macro changes.
well, because
Correct.
because he doesn't think. See, the thing is that this man doesn't have the knowledge or the critical thinking skills to think ahead and to conceptualize how this could turn out and backfire on him. All he can see is red for revenge and what he wants to happen. And what's going to also bite them in the butt is these red states are joining him in letting their National Guard go into these states. And
Exactly.
and if they hadn't been doing that, that was the thing that sent these other governors saying, yo, we're going to have to do a soft civil war here. We're going to have to do a soft secession here because your state has a lot of nerve being higher in crime. My state's not even on the list. And you're sending your National Guard into my state? Oh, no, no, no. I'm not giving you money to do that.
Again, these red states that are takers, I hope you have another way to fund the programs you don't have, because you're not getting it from us.
Right. Yep. Because to be perfectly honest, if they hadn't stuck their nose, this was an A and B conversation. If they hadn't stuck their nose in it, these red states wouldn't be like, oh no, I'm not giving my state's money to the federal government so they can dish it out to you so you can fund your National Guard to occupy my state. Mm-mm.
Exactly.
All
Exactly.
right. Our last conversation piece, and here's a story that I heard about high level. I didn't get the full understanding of it, but Dr. Tachi is going to bring it to us, and I know Aisha has some things to add on, but Cracker Barrel's new logo comes to an end. Dr. Tachi, if any of us are watching live on the replay, she's loosened up for it. Sorry if your audio, you can't see it, but Dr. Tachi, go for it.
So what has happened? This is an interesting study in marketing, but there's also political sway to it, which that's why I thought it was appropriate. So what happened is, for those of you who don't know, there is a restaurant called Cracker Barrel that is popular in the South. It was actually founded in Tennessee in 1969, and their headquarters are still in Tennessee. So they call themselves like a family restaurant. It's called Cracker Barrel Country Store, Old Country Store. So they have this kind of old-fashioned American values. They serve American fare. So they have breakfast food, like the famous thing is the crispy edged pancakes and that type of thing. So I say all this to say, and when you walk in, there is basically a general store. So before you get into the actual restaurant part of it, there's a general store. So if you think of the Mercantile on Little House on the Prairie, that's basically what this is. So they have like t-shirts and swag. They've got mugs. There are games and all these little tchotchkes and things you can fly. So, it's just about, playing with the things, and it's kind of interesting. And so that is the store connected then to the restaurant and the food. So what happened is they decided, the powers that be at Cracker Barrel decided that, okay, well, we want to attract a new type of customer or another type of customer. So what they did is they actually have been working on remodeling the inside of the restaurants, because there are lots of tchotchkes and lots of things around, and clutter, as they called it, and wanted to make it more streamlined and more modern, right? So fine. But the biggest faux pas was that they changed the logo. So they changed the logo. I don't know if you have the logos, Dr. Vibe.
I'll see if I can pull it up.
Okay, if you want, I think I have that because
if you have it, go for it.
Yeah. So let me pull this up. Give me 1 second.
Well,
I am
that,
going
Aisha
to.
says that Tennessee is the home of the Klan. She also says that you can make crispy edge pancake by using cast iron skillet.
Yes.
Then, Aisha says, mind you, it wasn't even their original logo.
No, exactly. All right. Do you see this?
Logo in 77.
Okay, actually, I can pull it up.
Okay.
I can pull it up. So I'll do it. And just if you're watching this, you'll be able to see it. If not, no problem. But just tell me if I have the right stuff here.
Yes, that's it.
Okay, great.
Absolutely. So if you look at the logo on the left, that is the original logo. They changed it to the logo on the right, apparently because it was going to be a little bit cleaner. It looked more modern. But if you ask me, it's ugly. And not only is it ugly, it upset all of these patrons. Now, you have to understand who the patron of Cracker Barrel is. It's not me. I don't eat there. It's not my type of food. But people, the thing is, it's familiar, comfort food, and it's inexpensive. That's what draws people there. So what they did is, you can see they removed the barrel and the man whose name is Uncle Herschel. So they took it off in the second, the one on the right. Well, the internet was livid that how dare you fire Uncle Herschel? They were livid. And so the big thing was that with this is not only it's not that you remove this, because there were people that were upset that they removed it, because look where we're living now, look what's happening. You're messing with something that they know, and for them, familiarity, the only thing they may have is the familiarity of Cracker Barrel, and you're missing with that. To me, it's asinine, but I can see how they think, and so that's what they thought. But the bigger story is there were factions that tried to make this into a woke moment. They're trying to be woke to try and attract different type of people. And so that's really how the story grew wings, because of the quote woke aspect of it.
Because then they tried to compare it to the removal of Aunt Jemima, the removal of Uncle Ben, the removal of the cream of wheat guy, and then the removal of the Land O'Lakes butter Native American woman.
Yes. Yes.
Am I correct too that the president of the United States even got involved in this?
He did. He weighed in because he doesn't have the talent to actually run the country. So I have to get involved in some things that have nothing to do with me.
And because
he got involved.
And because it distracts from the Epstein files. That's the thing of his.
It's a distraction.
If I pivot into something that touches on people's racial animus, they're not looking at me and Epstein.
Exactly.
Yeah, because to be honest, I heard about this and going, what's the big deal?
Look, the new logo is ugly. The old logo is ugly. But the freak out got even uglier. It's like, here's the thing. You don't have to use a racial slur to say, I like the other logo better. You know what? It's white supremacist cuisine. Black folks haven't been eating Cracker Barrel for a long time. We don't really care if they change their logo or not.
That's the thing. The average person probably doesn't care, because when you look at it, let's look at this from a marketing perspective. Yeah, there have been marketing missteps with other companies, but fundamentally, nothing was done to change the food, which is what matters here.
And then people started bringing up the rainbow-colored rocking chair that they had at one point. It's like, here's my thing. Y'all, you know what? Can a rainbow sometimes just be a rainbow?
A rainbow is sometimes just a rainbow. Come on. So this whole thing, which really should not be a big deal. You're absolutely right. This really should be a non-issue, but it's an issue because factions have now politicized it, which, as Aisha said, was a way to distract from the Epstein files. And mind you, they've gone back to the old logo now. They've said, oh, we've heard you. And they've now gone back to the old logo.
Because their stock crashed by like $100 million in one day.
It did. The stock. Where, on what earth, on what planet does stock crash because, oh, we changed the logo? But it's not just about the logo. This has really become politicized. It was the politicized, that's not a word, but I'm going to make it one, politicization of this company, of the company logo. And it's as it stands for taking away American values. That's what that was about. They made that stand for another company who's falling under a woke agenda and eroding American values. Dude, it's pancakes. But people who go along with that will see it as an erosion of American values.
But I bet you they wouldn't have a problem if they gave Uncle Herschel, a white robe and a pointy white hat, hood.
At all.
Wow. Because that's what
the
it looks like.
Already looks like a whip.
Yeah, that's what he looks like he's wearing that night.
Wow. Not
Yeah,
what, man. America's
it gives
really,
vibes.
a lot of Americans are really ingrained into the past, eh?
No, it's just that we had one black president and they don't know how to act.
Wow.
Well,
So
because to your
we'll be
point, it's because it changes the status quo of the past of leadership always looking a certain way.
right,
That shakes it up. And
right,
also somebody who earned their way there,
right.
who,
And
despite whatever roadblocks we put up, was able to earn their way there.
and also too, because you have to remember we live in a country that has for the longest time told all these people, made them feel comfortable by saying there will never be a black president in your lifetime,
Mm.
our generation included. And then there was. They
Uh,
lived through that. And now we will be paying for that for the rest of our lives.
wow.
Because that was the one thing that was still theirs. No matter whether they could become it or not, they had one dream that was theirs and theirs alone. And then it got broken, and they don't know how to act.
Mm.
I don't know. I don't know what to tell them or what to do with them.
Get
And
over it.
frankly, I don't care. I
I don't.
really don't care.
I'm like, get over it, because guess what? We have had to deal with disappointment after disappointment because of them. You know what? Get over it.
And my thing is be excellent. And Dr. Vibe, you know, I used to say this all the time. Just be excellent, because your mediocrity is not our problem.
Right.
Be excellent. We've had to be overly excellent to just get a modicum of something, not even respect, but just a modicum of something. We've had to be overly excellent. And the thing is, our excellence calls out your mediocrity. So now you
Right.
actually have to do something and you're mad. That's not our fault. I can't help you. And frankly, I don't want to help you.
And the difference is that I think the difference becomes that when you're taught from being a little child that you have to work harder for
Mhm.
things, it's different than when you're taught you don't have to work hard for things, that you're entitled to things.
You're
Right?
entitled to things, right?
There's a different
Yeah.
work ethic that comes along with that.
Different mindset too.
There's a different mindset too. So it's like,
Absolutely.
why aren't these things just coming to me because I'm entitled to them, right? That's what I've been told. But us, it's like, if I want this, I know I have to work at it. Not only do I have to work at it, but I got to really study hard, work hard at it, dedicate the time, put in the effort, late nights and all that stuff. Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, on that note, I think we will call it an epic conversation again. As always, want to say to the ladies, thanks for taking the time to hang out with us as per always. And before we let the ladies leave, first things first, though she's not here, we still got to give her props. There is how you can get a hold of LaLa, laurakey.net. Next up, we want to find out Dr. Tachi.
Hey, yeah. So you can find me at all these places down below. The best way to reach me is on Instagram at Dr._Tachi. I am the founder of IndieSoup Media. If you're looking for independent content that really resonates, or you may be an independent content creator yourself, make sure that you check us out on YouTube at IndieSoup Media.
Thanks again for taking the time to hang out with us as always, Dr. Tachi.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
No problem. And then there is Aisha K. Staggers, and these are all the places.
Yep. Real quick, because they're about to lock me up. Aisha Case, Aisha Case, AK Staggers on Instagram, Medium Aisha K Staggers on Medium, AK Staggers on Blue Sky, Brendo Media. You'll find my latest piece, which will be about the East Coast West Coast battle, and my Substack is Aisha K Staggers. Bye.
Wonderful. I know you got to run. No problem.
Bye.
All right. No problem. And I've learned from LaLa. So what I'm doing here is I've made it easy. One link. That's it. So taplink.cc/the Dr. Vibe Show. That'll give you everything. YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, all those things. That's the link. You can get a hold of me there. So that is that. And as always, well, I don't need to put that up. I don't need that anymore. So let's do this. You can watch replays of Primetime Saturday with Aisha and LaLa on the Dr. Vibe Show, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, and the Dr. Vibe Show website, the drvibeshow.com. I think we got some final comments here. Regina, you just tuned in. You're away and watch a rebroadcast. Hope you're well. Have an amazing Labor Day. No problem, Regina. Next time you are in for a close to the beginning of the show, we want to check out you. I was hoping that you would be able to try and call in again today, but no problem. You're on the travel thing, and Dr. Tachi says, hey, Regina. So that is that. So good to have you at the tail end, and I know you'll probably make some comments when you watch the replay. As we do the, another comment here. Regina goes, hey, back to Dr. Tachi, because Regina is one of the presidents of the Dr. Tachi fan club. You may not have known that. All right. So as we end off here, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions. Aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace. And if you're not making money, make history. Try to do both and make it better. And always, God bless. Peace to all. Keep the faith while good, and we'll catch you soon. Stay safe.
To understand how afraid I am of any member of the rodent family that's down to squirrels and chipmunks. Okay? I cannot stand all members of the rodent family. Rabbits, bunnies, no. What else is going on that day? I mean, is there something we're supposed to be doing?
Why are you going there? Why are you going there? I'm going to ask you. It falls the same day as the inauguration of the new president.
The what? Excuse me? I'm sorry?
So in other words, Monday.
So onesies. Now, folks, don't ever think you're going to see us all on a show with onesies on. Don't do that.
You might see me. You might see me.
You'll see me and LaLa, because we oftentimes wear ours.